Have you ever wondered what would happen if you threw a group of misfit kids into the care of a hardened war veteran? Well, you could sign up for military boot camp to find out firsthand, or you could join me in today's movie as we tackle the question no one asked. Head on, tighten up your bootstraps, and fall into formation, as today we salute Major PAYNE. Before we get started, I'd like to give you a quick reminder of the running top 10 that we keep with each new video, and refresh you as to where our list stands. After some feedback on the last episode, we had to make some changes to the list, so stick around to the end of this one, find out where today's movie falls, and to find out how you yourself can have a direct impact on the list. Major PAYNE stars Damon Wayans as Major Benson PAYNE, a fine-tuned war-hardened killing machine that knows nothing more than blood and conflict. So anyone that grew up in the 90s and 2000s could tell you who the Wayans brothers are, Damon being the second oldest out of 5 Wayans brothers, and 4th out of 10 total Wayans in the Wayne family. Yeah, 10. I was just as shocked as you by that count. I mean, I knew they had numbers to rival the Baldwin brothers, but I had no idea the Baldwins didn't hold a candle to the Wayans. This family basically ran the 90s and early 2000s comedy game with an absolute laundry list of bangers too long to list here. But for now, let's stick to the star of the show. Major PAYNE was released on March 24th, 1995, and follows a recently discharged Marine who is given the job as an ROTC director for a local Virginia prep academy. I never was in the military myself, but I have the utmost respect and honor for our U.S. Marines and military service members. We couldn't thank you enough, and if it wasn't for the sacrifice that you and people like my grandfather made, I couldn't be sitting here before you today. So, here's to you, and thank you. I digress, and without wasting any more time, let's roll straight into it. The movie opens with our star Major PAYNE making his way through a South American drug compound on a large-scale shutdown. In this, he has nothing but a service pistol. Not a single piece of body armor, just a bald head in the 2-time back-to-back World War champ 1911.
You're talking about the 2-time back-to-back!
At one point, a squad mate of his goes down with a bullet wound in his leg, so to distract him from the bullet wound in his leg, PAYNE just breaks his finger.
You may feel a little fresh.
We then cut back to base camp, where he meets up with General, who informs him of his discharge. We get a brief cut of his retirement, where it's just 2 weeks of him not in the military, and you can really see how crazy this guy is, going insane, talking on and on about his lust for blood and his want to fight and kill. He easily could have become a serial killer. However, luckily for us, he decides to use his skill for good and become a cop. Briefly, he straight up assaults an actor during a basic training test, where they're simulating a domestic violence dispute, and he's immediately thrown in prison. And it's in prison where old General comes and visits him to let him know of a new opportunity where he can get back into the military. But little does he know what real challenge awaits him on the other side. So he ends up being sent to a small prep academy in Virginia. And if I hadn't heard that brief part where Virginia was mentioned, I definitely still could have told you this was in the South in late spring to early summer, because it is raining in every other scene. And if anyone in the South could go more than 14 seconds from April to August without hearing about the weather or how hot it is, it'd be a miracle of Moses parting the Red Sea proportions. As Major enters the school, he's quickly greeted by young cadet Tiger, played by Orlando Brown, who we all know from Disney Channel back in the day, best known for That's So Raven and his role as Eddie.
I did a self-portrait, Miss Patuto.
As well as new love interest and school counselor Miss Walburn, played by none other than Karen Parsons, who you may know better as Hillary from The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
It's just not fair. I want my employer to want me for me, not for what I've accomplished.
We then cut to the first meeting of PAYNE and the cadets, who are made up of a ragamuffin group who have been mostly rejected by the general population of the school. I just gotta come out and say, the cadence that he uses when first talking to the kids is the most insufferable thing I've ever heard.
Do not attempt to challenge my authority!
You will respect my authority!
Like I mentioned before, I've never been in the military, but he spends like the first 15 minutes meeting these kids just hurling insults and making fun of them, yelling at them and degrading them. But if all the other military movies I've seen are any indication, this is probably pretty accurate.
What's your sole purpose in this army?
If any of you guys actually have military experience, let me know in the comments down below how accurate this actually is. After a few minutes of berating, the oldest cadet Alex stumbles his way down the hill. At this point, he's missed the entire introduction and has no idea how PAYNE is. Side note, Alex is actually played by a guy named Stephen Martini, and that's the coolest name I've ever heard, making this character way more of a badass than he was before. Anyways, Alex, not knowing what he's getting into, immediately starts hurling insults. So what does Major PAYNE do? He shaves their heads. Later in the day, Tiger and Miss Walburn come into PAYNE's office to ask PAYNE to apologize for the way he treated Tiger earlier. It doesn't work. and he just insults him more.
I'm sorry, you're just a little turd.
Miss Walburn really doesn't like this and wants Payne to be nicer to the kids. We then cut back to the kids in their room, freshly shaved and highly upset, complaining about Payne. In comes that one kid that's actually a tryhard and wants to be here.
Miss Finster, I got a 614.
There just always has to be one. Randall the tryhard comes in and lets them know to pack their bags, that they're moving out of the dorms and into a small military bunker on campus. They're not happy about this, and they continue to complain. So what does Payne do to this wave of complaints? He buries them in the ground and waters them like the dainty little flowers that they are.
Leave it to the last minute, and you may end up with a very expensive yet disappointing arrangement.
Now mind you, all of this is on literally his first day there. Bright and early the next day, we hit the obstacle course, which the guys can barely complete.
You'll get no sympathy from me. You want sympathy? Look at the dictionary between shit and syphilis.
I had to do a double take on this one. This scene absolutely broke me. So as the kids continue to complain, Payne does what Payne does, and he pulls out an actual grenade to kick them into gear. At this point, the cadets decide their best bet is to take him out. One of them making a super laxative in the lab, they're going to swap out his cupcake at lunch. Again, doesn't work. After all of this, he only gets gassed so bad it ends up knocking one of the kids out. So, time for a new plan. They want to set Payne up to get him fired, and they went off the deep end quick with this one. Like, how is this the plan that you came up with? They decide to dress one of the kids up in a dress and have him lay in bed with Payne as he's sleeping to try to take scandalous photos of him and paint him as a pervert to get him fired.
That is correct.
Naturally, they get caught. So Payne, being Payne, makes them all wear dresses and march around campus chanting.
Used to be Samson, now I'm in. Gotta earn my right to be called a man.
It's at this point Miss Walburn steps in again. She hates the punishment and thinks that Payne should be more loving. I definitely see why the last guy did nothing with these kids now. She's really just kind of manipulative and trying to get Payne to do what she wants. And when that doesn't work, she reverts to just being straight up mean and insulting him, which still doesn't work. Good for him. But she gives him a book to read on how to be a softer leader, something like that. After all of this, somehow the kids still haven't learned their lesson and are trying to come up with another plan to get Payne out. We're about a good hour into this movie already, and it's mostly just been the kids plotting to try to get rid of Payne. And by now, even Randall the narc wants out. Later that night, we cut to Payne actually reading the book Miss Walburn gives him, and Tiger pops back up saying he's afraid of there's a man in his closet. You know, typical kid stuff. So Payne takes a crack at being more sensitive, with little success, but at least he tried.
Ow!
What?
I want to put these in my pot.
He's still in there, he ain't happy.
It's not good enough. Miss Walburn's still nagging him. But Payne is determined and he thinks they need tough love.
Pop your titty out his mouth and stop babying him.
The movie then jumps to the next day as they line up to act out their new plan. They hire a big biker guy to come and beat him up. I've never been to prison, but I'm pretty sure this is highly illegal. I think it's the same thing that got Tiger King thrown in jail.
I got a judgment still against me from that bitch down there in Florida.
I digress. This biker is actually played by Bam Bam Bigelow for all my WWF fans out there. And honestly, at this point, Payne has about a month plus of rage built up in him and bloodlust just wanting to come out. He's been praying for a fight. And it didn't go well. Really? I was kind of disappointed by this scene. It was super short and really didn't serve any purpose. I mean, I get why they did it this way. It just wasn't my favorite. Afterwards, in interrogation, Alex admits to paying the biker by himself to help protect the other guys from group punishment. But instead of punishing him, Payne promotes him to squad leader, putting the sole responsibility of winning the Virginia games on his shoulders. Alex is not happy with this. So confronted, Payne offers them a challenge. And if they can complete it, Payne will leave. The challenge? To go and steal the trophy from last year's winners and bring it back to Payne. They gladly accept. But there's been like 0 time planning and just throw on makeup and head out. Because he's too small, Tiger gets left behind, so Payne is there to comfort him by telling him the story of the little engine that could. However, this story quickly becomes a PTSD-induced nightmare.
I fought in the big war. I mean, nobody tells me what to do.
And of course, somehow Miss Walburn is right in earshot.
Major!
Bam!
So to stop the train wreck,
Help! I'm choking!
she invites him to dinner. At this point, what must be like 10 p.m. At dinner, they talk about Payne's rough edges, trying to loosen him up, and again, to try to get him to be a little softer to the kids. Oh, dear Lord, this scene is wild. We then cut to the kids at the other school. Honestly, they must be getting in pretty good shape at this point, because they ran like 2 miles, and none of them were tired or winded at all. I don't know where the other kids were sent off to, because Alex just waltzes in the front door by himself and heads straight to the display case. They're immediately busted.
Busted! Big time! Big time! Yeah!
So the other school beats them up and sends them back empty-handed. The movie quickly then cuts back to Wilburn and Payne coming back from dinner. From this, for the first time, we see Payne have a genuine moment and open up to Miss Wilburn. He gives her a bullet from his heart, and they share a goodnight kiss. I guess the robot in Torkin just does that to people. Afterwards, Payne goes upstairs to find Alex beaten and bloody in his office, and it's revealed that Payne called to warn the other school sabotaging the boys. But somehow this sparks a flame in Alex, and he wants to win it more. The next day is Parents' Day, and we're introduced to Alex's abusive alcoholic dad. And as his dad attempts to beat Alex in the open, Payne stands up for him, protecting Alex. Even the hardest of asses won't stand for child abuse. Good for him. After all of this, the cadets are extra motivated, and they all want to win it now. So now, the real training starts. And we get a classic montage of them training hard in the weeks leading up to the games. They start to gain some confidence, and a little flair. At last it comes time. The boys are looking dapper as ever, and tomorrow's the big day. But we are halted by Payne's old general showing up to let him know there's a new assignment he is needed for, and that they must leave tomorrow, the day of the games. So he decides to leave the kids, and he has to leave now.
Oh no! We suck again!
Honestly, this must be super heartbreaking for the kids after they've built this relationship with Payne and worked so hard to get to where they are, and he just up and leaves. All that growth, progression, practice for nothing. Alex rallies the troop. He isn't going to let this slow them down. They're still going to go compete. Briefly, we get a cut to Payne at the train station waiting to leave. He's daydreaming, picturing the life he could have with Wilburn and Tiger in Virginia, with a little danger thrown in, of course. Back at the game, things are going well. That is until the relay race when Randall, who's now at this point switched schools and is on another team, trips Alex right at the finish line. Understandably, one of the cadets goes up and cold cocks Randall. At this point, an all-out war breaks out between the two schools. The head of the other school demands that they be disqualified and eliminated from the competition. But just as they are on the verge of elimination, boom, there comes Payne, back to save the day, talking the chairman out of it and moving them on to the final event, the Parade of Arms. Beaten and bruised, they have little time to get ready, and now it's Tiger's big moment. He gets to lead the drill. Now, I don't know if any of this would actually fly in a real competition, but they come out confident and strong with swagger.
Swag class with Josh!
I can't lie, it's actually really cool, and they did a great job. And again, not sure if this would actually work in real life, but it worked here, and they did it. They won! We get a nice shot of the trophy in the Madison cabinet and see Alex was awarded the Individual Performance Award. All that hard work has finally paid off. So there you have it. They've all worked so hard and become such great young men. So beautiful. The movie ends as they cut to the next school year and the new wave of cadets ready to learn the way of Payne as he makes his new home in Madison. Much like his box office showing, Major Payne was mediocre at best. For me, this movie was full of nostalgia, from the actors to the art style and even a lot of the music. It had some decent laughs, but for the most part was just all over the place and didn't really have that character development you come to expect to see. It was just kind of Payne's a hard ass, and then he's not. I definitely recommend to anyone that had seen it growing up. It's worth the 97-minute runtime, but outside of that, you're not really missing out. All things considered, for now, I can't put Major Payne any higher than 6th place on the list. If you all like this type of content and bad dad jokes, be sure to subscribe and be notified when new content comes out. If you disagree with this list or have any recommendations for movies I should add to the queue, make sure to drop them in the comments down below. And keep an eye out as the list grows. We're going to hold periodic polls so you guys can have a say in what movies belong in the top 10. Thank you all so much for taking the time to watch with me. Until the next one, peace.